inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, very early in the morning for us, is multi-hyphenate business tycoon Saskia Weber.
Wow.
That's a good title, right?
You keep changing it. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, when you're no longer just 99 World Cup winner, UCLA goalkeeper coach. Now you're a big time business person. Speaking of big time, today we have someone pretty darn big time here. We have Manchester City / England goalkeeper Karen Bardsley. Did I pronounce that right? Is that the actual proper pronunciation?
No.
Oh. It's okay. At least he didn't try an English accent with it.
Okay.
Am I Dutch? I mean, Bardsley?
I don't know. I was like,
I am.
You know, I always just try to be so appropriate. I'm like, okay, I'm going to find the proper pronunciation based on like the original origins of the last name. And then everyone's like, no, it's just Bardsley. It's just Bardsley. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Southern California. My parents are from Manchester. So I don't think it's pretty much as common as you can get, to be honest.
Yeah. Trust me.
But I appreciate the effort to make it a bit more exotic.
I mean, look, we have to put a little bit of flair. By the way, what was the one that I did last week, Saskia, where you're like, wait, what did you do that? The La Faure?
The best is Franz Hooks.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we just can't figure out what kind of accent you try to use when you try to do people's names, and it definitely wasn't a Dutch accent. Oh.
Smoking a pancake.
Karen, the best though is when the English announcers when they try to use the proper pronunciation for different countries around the world.
Oh,
I always love. Oh, they're trying so hard though, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little embarrassing. And then everyone, obviously, most people watch like an English feed, don't they? So everyone else starts to take on this pronunciation that is just so wrong. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Speaking of your Cal South roots, let's kind of get into that a little bit, because some of our audience might not be familiar. They're just like, they know you from the World Cup. They know you from Man City, you know, maybe a little bit of time when you were playing in Sweden and over here. But a lot of people don't know actually that you're Cal South, original Cal State Fullerton Titans right there. You know, nothing against Saskia's UCLA Bruins, you know, that she coaches at right now. But
hey, we all got to have somebody to play against, right?
There you go.
So why don't you tell a little bit of our audience here who might not be familiar, how the heck this all happened? How did you end up going over to the UK, becoming part of such a huge, massive club, all of that?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, you know, my parents are from Manchester originally. My entire family's from England. I moved over I was born and raised in Southern California. And then I moved to Sweden after 3 years in the WPS for Sky Blue, when the WPS basically disbanded. And, you know, we were suddenly kind of like, oh, you know, do I really want to do this? Do I want to try and, you know, continue to make a career out of this? So I thought, well, because I was with England at the time, I thought, well, why don't I just kind of like head back over to Europe and try to find, you know, a professional league. And at the time, like Sweden was really, you know, dominating a lot of the leagues in like the Champions League and stuff with Umeå, Tyresö, you know, and I was at Linköping and stuff. So I tried that for a few seasons, didn't quite settle. And then I came to England. You know, I signed for a club in Lincoln, of all places. Really beautiful city, but, you know, absolutely nothing to do. And I thought, right, this isn't really matching up with what I want to achieve. And then in 2014, end of 2013, Manchester City decided that they were going to apply for a position in the Women's Super League. So, you know, I spoke to my agent and I said, you know, like, are they interested at all? At first he was like, no. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to pack my bags and head to California for Christmas. And when I was on my way to the airport, of all things, my agent rang me and was like, actually, you know, Gavin, the director of women's football, wants to have a word. So he met me at the airport and showed me all the plans. And, you know, I had a pretty good idea after that meeting that I was going to try and, you know, play at Man City as long as I could. And, you know, 7 years later, here I am. So.
Nice.
I mean, that's just amazing. And, I think one of the great things is nowadays with the way social media is, the way streaming is nowadays, a lot of the, the younger players here are becoming familiar, with that league over there, and the level, obviously. And obviously Man City, I mean, you guys have been absolutely crushing it for the last few years. I mean, it's just, the success has been really, really, really high. I want to bring up this, kind of is that Saskia as well is a dual citizen, and
All right.
yeah. So
I'm the crazy Dutch.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I ran into the same thing back when the WSA shut down. Was, do I want to keep doing this and stuff? But I had, I was older at that point, and I had, been in Japan playing pro and everything like that. And then when WSA shut down, it was like, well, I have my dual citizenship. I can, go over to Europe, and I retired. That's the short end of that story. I retired.
It was that good, was it?
I couldn't do it again. I was like, my body was done. They're like, okay, forget it.
Well, they say when you know, you know.
Well, speaking from somebody whose body who's not done by any stretch of the imagination, it's Karen right here. And Karen, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on for this topic right here is because you are so good at reading the flight of the ball. I mean, you can even see, some of your even iconic saves just in regards to like how you follow through with the whole ball, how your eyes stay on that ball the entire time. So we really want to talk about this topic because this is one of these things where a lot of young goalkeepers, they don't read the flight of the ball. They move into spaces rather than actually following through with the ball. So can you break down just for us a little bit who might be not familiar, like some parents out there, what are we referring to when we're talking about the flight of the ball?
Well, I'll try and keep it as simple as possible because obviously over the years it's certainly changed a lot. But essentially the flight of the ball is, from the moment that a ball leaves the foot of, the opposition or whoever's striking the ball, and essentially the trajectory that it takes, to get from point A to point B. So obviously the point of football is to get the ball in the back of the net. So 9 times out of 10, they're probably hitting it on target, or at least attempting to. So ideally, it's just kind of making sure that your line of sight is as clear as possible. But then also that you're loaded and balanced in your set position early enough to be able to make those movements and adjustments. And if the ball does kind of take a deflection, or, if the wind takes it, or if, like these days, the movement of the ball is so, unpredictable, that you're in a position where you can move from that set position effectively and have a solid barrier behind the ball. So that's, there's so many things that you can break down as well, in terms of the flight of the ball, watching the spin, where the striker or the attacker is striking the ball on the face of the ball, whether it's, got spin from inside out to outside in, or, a knuckle or a wobble. So these are all the kinds of things that fortunately we have the resources, with our coaches who can strike these balls, and we practice these things kind of day in and day out. So I would imagine a lot of it has to do with just repetition and understanding that these types of movements can happen, and the more that the footballs change, the lighter they get, or even the stitching, the materials that they're made of can add a bit more movement. So essentially for me, giving any advice to a young goalkeeper would be that you need to get set as early as possible, see the ball as early as possible, but then also you need to be patient. So you don't want to try and anticipate, where the ball is going to go, because the direction can change so quickly.
Yeah. I want to bring that up right now because, you brought up a really good point in regards to the patience. And Saskia, do you think that's one of the reasons why a lot of young goalkeepers have issues with following the flight of the ball or misreading the flight of the ball? Is because they want to jump on everything. They don't want to take their time and actually follow.
Yeah, and it's that element of, we see that in young kids today, that guessing and that kind of, meaning you have to maintain your balance. You want to be patient. It's a great way to explain it, because like Karen said, there's so much movement with the ball today, depending on how it's struck and everything. And even at a younger age, it's very unpredictable. So, you want to hold yourself, you want to hold that set position, keep your eye on the ball. I think balance is a big one for me, because if that direction changes, if you're not balanced properly, you're not going to be able to shift your weight to make the adjustment. If you're flat-footed, if you're on your heels and everything. So I think that's a big thing, weight forward, set position and everything. So you can make that quick movement and make that adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion in the past about, with the old goalkeeper who was at England a few years ago, old goalkeeper coach, sorry, Lee Kendall. And one of the things that, he noticed about me was that I was so eager to kind of like be involved that sometimes I was taking myself out of the perfect position. So, a lot of the things that we worked on was like, right, just be economical in your movements. Like, you don't need to, constantly be going down the line or anything. If anything, you can be deeper, you can just work the angles a bit more intelligently, as opposed to kind of wanting to chase saves all the time.
Yeah. And just short adjustments. It doesn't have to be, such great movements and everything, just angles.
Yeah, it's minimal movement.
Minimal. Absolutely.
Well, that's a really good point you're bringing up. And Karen, you're really good about that. And we always try to praise that with people in regards to when less is more sometimes. And that the kind of just in regards to just like, it's just a slight adjustment of movement rather than a full attack of the ball can really sometimes, especially when you're talking about the balls nowadays, like you were talking about, literally, like they're like, they might as well be like, drone like someone else is operating them. It's insane. I mean, sometimes I see these balls, I'm like, dude, how did that ball like bend like that? How did that even happen? Like, someone's clearly manipulating this game. There's no way that's real. But like, because then that way you can make that shift of your body, right? And I've seen you do that before. And if like Saskia says, it's like, if you're leaning one way, well, you can't move with the flight of the ball because you're already too over, right?
You're already behind a step.
Exactly.
Because now you're making the adjustment. You're making like a double adjustment in a sense. If you're guessing leaning, now you have to adjust. So you're not, and then you have to go and react. So like.
I mean, the great thing is we can all put our goalkeeper nerd hats on and just like talk about like the different approaches to different types of goalkeeping as well, because I think it's important to note that not every single goalkeeper is going to be exactly the same. And when you're working with other goalkeepers, it's important to obviously have fundamentals, but you can't really coach someone that's my height and someone that's 5'6" the same way. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to have different strengths and different weaknesses or vulnerabilities, but essentially the fundamentals will kind of be the same. And those are really just being effective in goal, and being efficient. So a lot of the stuff that we work on is footwork patterns in terms of, okay, well, if high, low, medium, what have you, the footwork patterns stay relatively similar regardless. It's just the detail in that final push off and the final step that kind of changes. And we're focusing on building momentum through the ball to kind of carry us through the ball. We're not trying to just get a fingertip on it. We want to catch or parry wide or whatever needs to happen, obviously, but we want to make sure that we're not just stopping dead at the point of contact.
And that you brought up a really good point right there. And actually, Omar brought this up last week in regards to, there was a coach actually in the UK who was talking about quality on the ball. And it really made me think about using that terminology of quality on the ball as opposed to, handling the ball or whatever, because that type of thinking, especially for a young goalkeeper, because Saskia and I, we always talk about the literalization, how literal they take everything. So if you say handle the ball, they think handle the ball. Like literally, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands here, but this is clearly catching the ball.
I know, me either.
Terrible technique.
I'm like, don't drop the mic.
All right, here. Catching it right there.
Nah, just stop.
Okay, I'm just not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try. But especially at your level, it's really about making proper contact for the situation, right?
Yeah, I think just trying to think of the best way to say this really. Each save has to be taken in its own right, you know. So obviously it's not like a one fit all type solution. So, you know, whether it's, you know, a slow collapse dive to the right, you know, essentially like the fundamentals that I mentioned about the footwork can still apply, but it's just the adjustment in terms of, okay, will it be a body save? Will it be, you know, extension? Will it be, you're trying to make it as easy as possible for yourself. So when you're talking about contact on the ball, like for me, coming back from a pretty lengthy injury, that was something that I'm kind of like, oh, like this feels a bit weird. So for instance, like maybe I'm too excited to kind of be back training and stuff. So sometimes I kind of like get a bit like snatchy or grabby with my hands, and that kind of leads to, you know, a bobble, or maybe I'm rotating, you know, a bit much with like my hips, which leads to the shoulder rotation, which changes the way that your hands actually reach the ball. So for me, the focus has been on like trying to keep my hands like moving together, but also soft. So I'm not, you know, having two moving components hit another moving component, you know. So you basically want to keep your hands soft and still, and kind of let the ball like almost be cradled in your hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, you know, I try to stress all the time in regards to the shock absorption and the cushioning of the ball, because especially nowadays when you're talking about the movement of the ball, and, you know, we're talking about these crazy types of balls, it's really more about pocketing the ball and containing the ball into a space where you're going to be able to control it and make a good decision with the ball, rather than trying to, you know, get a clean handle on the ball. I mean, Saskia can even attest for this, just even at UCLA training, just the way that some of these young ladies are hitting the ball. Just there's no way that they can have a clean handle on it at first contact, right?
Well, I don't necessarily think that.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm trying to, you know.
I think that, but the point is that you're not catching the ball we changed kind of topics, but you're not catching the ball at point of contact. You're following through with your energy. So, you know, how am I getting two hands to the ball, following through with it, with my energy going through, and that'll help a corral, like a moving object and a moving object. If you try to hold something here, that's going to blow through it, right? So, you know, physics. So here, if I stop something here and this is moving, this is going to have the strength. But if I move if I'm moving through something I'm changing its direction, right? So you don't want to catch a ball at point of contact. You want to follow through with your ball, and that helps you like corral that ball and hold it better. Trying to hold any object as it's coming at you and trying to like hold onto it in a stop motion makes it difficult, you know, or with too much excitement and then you bobble it from coming back from an injury.
I think it's important.
I just picture of you like so excited to be back, running around I18 like crazy.
I'm like a big kid. when it comes to training, but no, it's been really good. But yeah, to your point, I think it's really important, you know, as the pace and as the movement increases, you know, you do want to get as much structure behind the ball as possible. So it's important that, you know, everything is moving in the same direction. So you got your, you know, obviously your step, your knee, your shoulders, elbows, hands, head following through. So the more you can get behind it, the easier it is to kind of, like you said, absorb that force, Mike.
So I've got a question for you, Karen, obviously playing at an extremely high level right now, is that because one of the things that I see a lot of young goalkeepers is they can't judge where they should make contact with the ball in regards to during the flight of the ball, at what point of the flight. And a lot of that is based on their positioning. A lot of times, you know, they try to make contact with the ball after it's already risen, rather than on its trajectory from the shot, trying to make contact before it gets to its peak position. How can we help young goalkeepers?
What, you're leaving? He's very.
You're gonna hate. No, okay. You're gonna hate my answer.
My answer saved the damn ball, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
okay,
you see the ball and you go and get it.
Yeah. Exactly. I keep telling you that, Michael. Just keep the ball on net.
No, like
don't be so literal.
I think I get what you're trying to say, but it sounds
I'm
a
so
bit
glad
like
you do
you're
because I
trying
don't know
to.
what I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
It's just
It's
don't
8:30 in the morning. I'm like,
Don't
what?
It sounds.
overthink it.
Don't blame the time. Like, come on.
Don't
You're,
don't overthink it, Michael. Don't
you're better
overthink
than that. No, I think, like I said, like the foundation is the same, regardless of kind of where the ball is coming from. That you need to make sure that you have a clear path, like a clear line of sight to the ball, and you're also set and grounded, as the ball is arriving. So, like, obviously, it's not always going to be in and around you. It's not always going to be, hey, can you just volley this like just straight at my face so it's an easy catch? Like, you're going to have to adjust. And again, the main objective for us is to keep the ball out of the back of the net. So when it's kind of a bit more, it's a bit easier to discuss the flight of a ball, like from like maybe a set piece situation or corner or something like that, where there's a bit more time, a bit more loft, and you have to kind of like make a bit more of a decision. But when it's coming from a shot, like, you don't have the time to kind of think, right, well, this is rising, where do I want to get it, if it's above or if it's underneath or anything like that. You just want to make sure that you get something behind it to kind of change its direction. So yeah, if you can think something like that from the time it leaves the foot, the time
the ball's
before it
probably in
hits
the
you in the
back of the
face,
net.
then well done you.
If you have time to think something like that, the ball's in the back of the net, Mike.
This is
While you're still
why
contemplating whether I should have caught it while it was rising or dipping. I'm just teasing.
Well, I do.
By the way, I just
I'm just teasing.
I do think there is, like, there are different ways to, if you're looking at a dive, say, if it's going to your left and the ball is rising and you've either taken too large a step or you've not been effective in your movement or your foot has opened up, then potentially you could dive underneath the ball as opposed to rising as to where it is or where it's going to be. So maybe that's kind of a little bit more about what you're inferring.
well, the funniest thing about what I'm inferring is that I'm glad you guys have any idea what I'm inferring. By the way, guys, Saskia Weber is executive director of LA Goalkeeping Academy, is also available for sessions. You do not have to train with me. For anybody out there who's listening, is that you brought up the rise and the drop, and I think that might be one of the things I'm getting at, because, like, for instance, if you look at yourself, right, like when you make saves and there's a ball that drops, the flight drops, you're very good at shifting your weight and dropping your nose and chin to that ball to follow that flight as it drops. I think that, in regards to reading the flight, is something that a lot of younger goalkeepers, especially a lot of younger goalkeepers who might be of a higher stature, taller stature, have difficulty with. First off, their starting position is way too high, in my opinion, a lot of the times. And second of all, is that they can't get that drop. They can't get that drop down. And how important is that head tilt to reading that flight for you?
I think for me as a taller goalkeeper, I noticed that my movements were less effective when my head was kind of like bobbing. So that was something that I've consciously tried to work on a little bit more, because essentially that helped me load my balance through my feet. So if my head's a bit more forward and my shoulders are a bit more forward, like, I'm not talking about like collapsing your body, but just like an ever so slight lean puts the weight through the ball of your feet, then you're kind of able to move a little bit better. So that's something that I noticed even recently, like I said, just getting my eyes back in. I noticed that I was maybe a little too upright, and then I started kind of doing that, and then that sends the hands out a little bit. So when you're a bit more forward, you have a bit more relaxed posture in your shoulders, your hands are able to move a bit more freely, and typically they are kind of like at a higher reactive height, or more normal type height. So I find it's a lot easier to kind of move them at the same time straight to the ball. So that was really the biggest thing that I noticed, was that if my head wasn't a bit more forward, I started to kind of load through my heels, and then obviously like my hands would kind of shoot out, and they were very stiff, and I wasn't in control. So that was one of the things that if I felt like something wasn't feeling right, that was kind of one of the first things I would revert to, like, is my head forward?
Yeah, I was just going to that in one of my sessions, one of my first sessions I've done in a while because of this craziness. And
I don't know what you mean.
One of my young players, he's probably grown like 6 inches in a day. But
it's all that food they've been eating in quarantine, right?
He's falling into that habit. He was falling into that habit. Like he's, because he's getting used to his height now and stuff, where his head's back and he's kind of in that stiff position, catching the ball back. A ball here ends up on the balls of his feet, and just reiterating, number one, his footwork, and number two, his lean forward, balance and everything. And it's apples and oranges, the difference in controlling a shot when you have that proper body position, your head forward and into the ball, as opposed to that reaction in a sense.
So I have a question for both of you guys right here, because one of the things that I've been doing, and by the way, for people who are not familiar, Karen has done goalkeeper coaching as well too. She's not just a world-class player; she's also a goalkeeper coach. That's why she's perfect for this show right here.
Gosh.
I've been no. Hey, come on, we got to give credit where credit's due, right? What I've been doing is I'm actually over-exaggerating when I have a goalkeeper that has a tendency to drop back, like you're talking about, Karen. Over-accentuate forward movement, because as the pace of the ball comes in, they're going to end up in a more neutral position anyway. So I'm better off teaching them to stay too aggressively forward, because they'll naturally find that sweet spot. Do you agree?
What, like over-exaggerating it?
Yeah.
I think it's again, I think it's going to be different for everyone, based on their center of gravity. Like for me, I've got a very long torso and spine, so if that starts to sink, then that affects like my movement in my hips and my knees. So it's like, okay, I might be slightly higher in my set position than someone else, but the most important thing is, can they load to be effective in their movement. So I think sometimes if you lean too forward, you could potentially shrink in your posture, which could make it a little bit more difficult to move, obviously like laterally forward, but then also backwards as well. So yeah, I don't know. To me, I would say it's a very, very slight lean. It shouldn't necessarily be something that's like super obvious. Maybe you just need to hit them in the face a few times to get them to understand.
See, it's a girl after my own heart.
I was going to say, you and Saskia, you guys.
That's right. Figure it out.
We're savage.
What are you doing wrong? Figure it out. How many times can you get hit in the face?
No, I think it's just important to like reiterate, the fact that your hands and your head, everything is essentially meant to move as one, and everything has an effect. So it's kind of like reiterating the why, but then also like when they get it right, getting them to understand why it's right, having them feel it again and again so they can determine on their own what's right and what's wrong.
I'm glad you just brought up that thing about everything is one, because I was actually talking to a goalkeeper coach yesterday, and I was trying to express to them, because they were asking me, and they're saying, well, like, okay, well, which part of the body, which part of the extremities do I want to start with in regards to when I'm teaching movement? And I said the whole kinetic chain is connected, so you can't just work on one area and then just expect everything else to follow suit. Speaking of that, I want to talk about set pieces, because Karen, you brought that up earlier. And I think in regards to flight of the ball, I think this is one of the places where people have the most issues judging the flight of the ball is on set pieces. So can you kind of elaborate on what you were talking about right there?
Do you mean in terms of moving towards the ball, or in terms of just reading the trajectory of
reading the trajectory of the ball?
Okay. So yeah, I think again, everything that I've learned over the years comes down to patience. And again, like being economical in the goal. So understanding that, you don't need to have happy feet. You don't need to be, trying to find your perfect start position. Like, look, just plonk yourself in the middle of the goal. And then when when the ball gets delivered, like be patient, read the flight of the ball, and attack it as late, as fast, and as hard as you can. And that for me is the kicker. You know, a lot of people get so eager to go and, you know, like pluck a ball off the head of an attacker that sometimes they kind of step backwards, or they come too forward, and then they're chasing the ball almost backwards into the net, or, you know, they've started too far behind, so then they're, you know, having trouble at the near post. So essentially you're relying on the fact that you have the ability to use your hands, you know, to read the flight of the ball, understand that if it's lofted, if it's right-footed, left-footed, depending on where it's coming from, that could also have an effect on your start position. So if it's in swinging out, swinging, it's a driven ball. You know, even the traffic around you can have an effect on your start position and your decision making. But for me, it's, again, just trying to keep it as simple as possible, trying to make sure that, for me, take the ball at the highest point you can. Have a slight bend in the elbows. Obviously, you don't want to be fully straight because that doesn't help absorb any sort of shock. But then also that you want to make sure that you're traveling through the ball as well. That sets you up nicely for the opportunity of a counter as well.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about that, Mike, and it's, you know, exactly it. Be patient, especially on that flighted ball or that service. And then, you know, so like we had said, Tony's thing was leave late, arrive early and follow through. You know, if you come in too early, you're going up with the crowd. If or you know, for especially younger kids, will overrun it, or like you said, I love your like visuals, or you're just running around chasing the ball around the box. Like I get these like cartoon visuals in my head of like this little kid running around trying to catch a ball in the box.
That's appropriate, yeah.
I love it. But yes, and so be patient, keep it as simple as possible, get the right track to the ball, but come through strong so you clear any traffic and get the ball at its highest point. And I totally agree. If you're catching that ball and you're catching it straight arm back, it might be a high point, but there's no absorption there, and you're throwing your body off. So you come through with bended arms, and then you get the quick counter, and then it's goal.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
And then it's a goal. And then I
Obviously,
side volley it, 1-2 touch.
There's so many details though that go into it, even like your starting position, your body
Absolutely.
angle, and things like that. You know, like you don't want to be square, you don't want to be open, you want to be about 3/4. You know, you want to make sure that, again, it's the line of interception of your movement towards the ball. Like you don't want to be coming directly underneath it. And even, you know, even if it is slightly overhit, or you do slightly misjudge it, you know, you can use the momentum of the ball to take you with it essentially as well. So it just depends. And then you've got the whole game management piece after that. You know, were you winning? Are you losing? Is it nearly over? Are you trying to counter? You know, do you want to sit on the floor for a bit?
See, now you got the tactics coming in. Now I feel like I'm listening to like a Tim Dittmer, like FA defending the areas type presentation or something.
He's brilliant. I love Tim.
Tim is incredible. And by the way, and he was speaking. So he was speaking when we said that you were coming on the show. He's like, she's absolutely fantastic. Like she's one of the most intelligent and yada yada yada. So he was.
No, she couldn't even figure out some of your questions.
That's why she's intelligent. That's why she's brilliant. Because I don't know what I'm saying.
Shout out to Mace as well. You know, he's been great for us.
Oh, Mace!
Like the whole new FA new school type thing has just been really, really interesting to kind of work with, because a lot of it is, you know, challenging what your preconceptions are of goalkeeping, what you think you should be doing, and a lot of it's kind of like, okay, well, what do you think about this? And you're like, well, I'm used to people telling me whether I'm right or I'm wrong, or, you know, like now it's kind of subjective. Let's have a debate, you know? So it's kind of like, all right, cool.
And I think you touched on that though. We've been talking about that for forever. It's such a gray area. It's not, you know, every goalkeeper's different, height, speed, you know, so all your positioning is going to be different. The way you attack the ball, it's not, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, period. But I love what you said.
But this is how you do it.
No, but I was going to say, but unless I'm telling you, but I love the footwork part, because that's something that's consistent. And
it's key. It's key.
It's regardless. Like so I like that.
Well, no, that's actually a really
the show. Michael can No, just kidding.
You guys should just have an offshoot show.
I'm working on it.
There we go. I want to bring this change here right there. That was the timing is just perfect right there. Whoa. Did anyone else get that feedback right there? Or was that just
No.
me? Okay. That's just coming on my end. What was my train of thought? Oh, yes. You brought up the footwork, right? Because Karen, that's actually something that you're really good at, and I try to stress this in regards to following the flight of the ball and reading that flight of the ball, is that your feet get you to the ball. And so many young goalkeepers want to drop, and they want to push off when they don't need to yet. And one of the things that's really good about you with free kicks, when we're talking about set pieces, is that you follow all the way through until you get to the position where you have to shoot your body, if the angle is such that you have to shoot your body. Can you kind of stress why that's so important for you to take that extra step where you might think, okay, well, I'm not going to get there unless I push off, but I do have one more step in me?
Yeah, I think, again, this is one of the things that's just been trained into me over the years. And it wasn't always there. I have to say that I started ages ago, and it was very old school, one step push as far as you can and just see where it takes you. But with the integration of yeah, Saskia, you know what I mean.
And when you used to practice flying over like 5 people bent over, just like,
wait,
I'm
what?
like, why don't you just take an extra step?
Wait, you had 5 people bent over and you would jump over?
You just like they're like bent like this and power diving. I'm like, I don't even teach power diving.
What do you guys like a it's like a daredevil competition.
But I'm like, it's like get there. Why that's where it came in. You're totally right. It's like old school. It's like one step and go. It's like, you know what? Get some fast feet and get there. Like make it easy.
So it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, because like obviously I had to kind of change that and like reintegrate just footwork patterns into my movement. And so fortunately I did have kind of a foundation of that power at the very end. So like now with the advent of decent footwork, I wouldn't say it's great. It's certainly not ballet material, but yeah, it's allowed me to cover a lot more ground more efficiently. And it's allowed me to, the biggest thing is really that being able to extend, and the full extension, going from 2 hands to 1, and kind of really just being able to drag every single centimeter, out of your coverage. So that for me was, I'm trying to think of the best example. It's probably the one from Japan in the World Cup, where it was like, okay, it's a range where they could play in a set piece. A wide free kick type thing. So you don't know if it's going to be a direct shot on goal, but obviously you need to defend the goal because that's your main priority. But you also have to put yourself in a position where you can come and take a cross as well and dominate your area. So it's like being brave, keeping a relatively high line, but then also putting yourself in a position where you can move forward and backward in one go. And so as soon as you realize that the shot is going to be on target, and it was moving. It was just like a drop step, shuffle, get yourself across the goal as fast as you can. And as soon as you realize that you need to push, just essentially like throw yourself out there as much as possible. Because yeah, it moved, it split the wall. Like there was just all sorts of things that, the greatest thing though, if I reflect on that, was none of that. I wasn't cognitively thinking about any of that in the moment. It was like, right, okay, this is what's happening. You have to go and get the ball, and that's
Exactly.
pretty much it.
No, but you're right, and that's why the footwork and everything in the training, it is like dancing in a sense, and it's has to become second nature when you're not thinking of that. This is how you've been trained to move your feet, to cover the space, to get there, and go. And I'm just sitting here right now. I can't get over remembering how many stupid power diving drills I used to do.
So did that answer your question?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, one of the really cool things about what you're talking about right there is like unconscious correct analysis, because like I've been taking this like mindset course, because I'm nerdy like that. And in it, they're just describing different phases, right? And like, like that third phase is like you're making unconscious correct analysis as opposed to conscious correct analysis, because like you're talking about, like, yeah, but that's the thing. That's the stage where a lot of young goalkeepers are in, is where, they're thinking about what is the proper decision at the time, rather than just they're so instinctual that it's already ingrained in them and they can read it right away.
And
because
I
like
think it's important though when you work with these kids though, making sure that they understand that that's part of the journey. Like I think what you're talking about is conscious and unconscious competence. And I am my own worst critic, and I know that when I'm working on something in training, and if it doesn't kind of like meet my own expectations or standards, I can really kind of get annoyed with myself. But then I realize, I've been working on this for a week and it doesn't feel right, something's not right, and then it's just kind of like one moment where you just tweak something. Maybe the coach or the manager has seen something, or you've looked at something on analysis, and then suddenly you're like, oh wow, it's all just clicked, and you've had this like major epiphany, and then everything's just easy, and you're like, I need to just not think about this. It's such a nice feeling. It really is, because then your mind is just clear and you're in the moment.
I mean, there's nothing better when it just clicks. There's nothing better than when it just clicks, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, And I mean, I think a lot of it is in regards to when we're talking about following through with that flight. I think a lot of it is mental, and how we're training these young goalkeepers to act within the situation. And I think a lot of goalkeeper training I've seen in the past, it's like, okay, you've gotten there, you've made contact, you've done your job, rather than thinking all the way through the game, like from a full, like you were talking about the game standpoint, Karen. It's like, okay, now I've played it. My next thought is, where's the counter? As opposed to like, cool, I've done my job. And Saskia, I know you talk about this over and over and over again with your goalkeepers. Like, just because you made the play doesn't mean that it's over.
No, absolutely not. And you're also the first pass on attack, then you have to keep that in mind. You're last person on defense, first pass on attack. Well, hopefully last person. But do one thing at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself. And we talk about that all the time as well. Be in the moment where you are, understand the game, understand what's needed, have your gamesmanship, know that you're supposed to be wasting time, know all that. But when you're involved in the save and everything, be involved in that moment. Don't think ahead. Then, it's in steps. I mean, it's not like don't take an hour to think about it afterwards, but it's in short steps like that. Because we always say, it's like, I use that analogy that's like a wide receiver going down for a pass that's thinking about what happens after the catch, and then they end up dropping an easy catch. Like De Gea. And so you just oh, trust me, we're not nice sometimes here.
Hang on a minute. I thought this was a goalkeeper union.
It is a goalkeeper union, but he was thinking.
I'm not saying.
Oh, don't even try it.
I'm not saying a word right.
Yeah, I'm the one that's always getting in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
I was behind him I was lifting him up. I just thought, he was ahead. I don't know where he was the other week. He
had good final performances for the team. I mean, Karen, you're supposed to support Blues. Like, I mean, so I know you can't say a word either way right here. You're goalkeeper union, but you got to be biased towards the blue right there. So.
Football is the winner, isn't it?
Wow, what a PC answer. I'm so the opinionated battle.
I know I'm opinionated, but I don't
think
I'm in a position to say things at the moment.
Oh God, thank God thank God they don't have that much video of me. Trust me. You can just rip me apart, I'm sure.
There's gotta be someone who's got some great great
track. I told you gotta get the little film thing.
No, there's some people. We've had even some players on found some WUSA footage of you and all that. So.
Oh, that's right. You were at the Charge, weren't you?
I was for a year, and then I worked out a trade to New York, so I ended with New York.
Was it the first season of the WSA?
Yeah, I was
in the Charge.
I was one of the founding members. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, did you play with Kelly Smith then?
Absolutely.
Dude, I remember this. You're gonna get a kick out of this. Well, maybe you won't. But I thought it was cool. So I was playing for the Socal Blues. Like, I think I was about 15. And you guys had your preseason camp down at the ranch.
Uh-huh.
And I remember watching. I can't remember who you were playing. You might have been playing like the Lady Blues, like the senior team, the adult team. And I remember watching it, going, "Oh my gosh! Like these are gonna be professionals. Like we're gonna see them on TV
We were doing
and all
cuts.
this."
That was
And I was like,
preseason.
"I want to do this one day." And
That's
like,
awesome.
I was like 15, and I was like, "This
No,
is so
stop.
cool."
Okay,
And
I get it. You were 15. I got it. Right? We get it.
Hang on a minute. No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know you are. I'm in the same boat now. I've got kids. I'm like, you're half my age.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we were there for a month. We were there for that preseason. Yeah. We were there forever. So yes, I was on the charge for that first season and then finished with New York. But Callie, it's just absolutely incredible. And I think people have asked me, like, who's that, like, one player that you just would always score on you and that you just like just had your number? And it was Callie. It was I just could not defend against her.
She's got that remarkable ability to just make you look very silly, like whenever she wants.
And whether it was in practice or then playing against her, when I played for New York, it was just like, that girl's got my number, man. What a great player.
You were at that the powerhouse SoCal Blues teams, those youth teams in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I was with the Celtic back in the day. From like 98, I think, to 99, and then I left to go to the Blues in 2000, and then I finished the club career there, and then I went to Fullerton after that. So It was crazy. It was great. Obviously we always played against the Blues, Tad, Hugh, Larry, and yeah, when I got the opportunity to go, it was just great. I just loved it. I loved the philosophy. I loved the way they did things.
And the uniforms. Pretty snazzy.
Oh,
uniforms.
obviously. Yeah, obviously. They were amazing. It's funny is I still got one at home. I think the last Christmas when I went home, I actually found one and I was like, oh, this is such a cool shirt. It's absolutely amazing.
I want to talk about this as much as I wanted to reminisce about because we could just start talking WPSL too. We could talk like Ajax, and then we could talk W League, Pally. Oh my gosh, that Pally Blues team was ridiculous. Like people don't understand that Ajax team and that Pally Blues team could play in the NWSL. For sure.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I loved them. I love my time with Ajax. It was amazing. My time with Pally, like I didn't get as much playing time as I wanted, but like the overall experience was just incredible. Like I learned a lot about what I liked and what I didn't like, and it's all really valuable experience at the end of the day. But yeah, it's incredible talent, absolutely incredible talent.
So Karen, I actually came out there and trained with you guys with the Pally Blues, and oh my gosh, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, this level. I am not ready for this level at all right now. I got the call like the night before. They're like, hey, we need an extra keeper. Do you want to come out? And like I came out, and it was like at some dude's house up in the hills or something like that. It was like this like
oh my gosh, yeah. Where were
Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was
you were on for the end.
It was the Platinum Equities guy.
Yeah.
You were in Beverly Hills?
Yes.
You were off of my friend owns the house next door to that. That's why.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh,
so funny.
Right. He's like one of my best friends. Ron Burkle's one of my best friends, and he owns a house next door to that. And I always tease him when I'm at his house because that house has that field in the back. And I'm like, oh, dude. And Karina used to always be like, oh, field in the back. I was like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, there's been some, I mean, like, honestly, only in LA, honestly.
Totally. I was just talking about that house the other day because, it's like impossible to find a field here to train on right now. And I was like, God, I wish I had that house.
Well, there was a point when we, I think, who was it? I can't remember. We ended up doing like a couple like 5-a-side tournaments up at like Robbie Williams' place.
Oh, I played up there too. Yeah. The converted tennis court. The converted tennis court. Yeah.
It was fantastic. I was like, this is okay, whatever.
Did you ever play at Rod Stewart's house?
No.
Oh, the Celtic Field of Dreams.
Now
Yeah, never got to.
so funny.
Oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
These are
Put a
things
word
that,
in.
by the way, are
Green
so
Acres.
inside. Nobody on the who's listening to the show, unless they live in
No,
LA.
Green Acres is the name of the road. That house is off.
Oh
Of course
my
it is.
gosh.
No, because it's the name of the estate, my friend's estate.
No, I get it, but yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's named Green
Acres.
Acres. I'm like, I was just talking about it. It's so funny. All right, reel it in, Mike.
All right.
Sorry,
We'll
yeah.
reel it in. By the way, I
Bit
like
of
that's what I was.
tangent
That's what I was telling your comms people that we just go all over the place. We definitely go
Oh,
on
I love
tangents.
it.
'Cause
Yeah.
she's like, can you send a rundown of what you guys are going to talk about? I'm like, well, we'll end up not talking about that, but sure, here you go. I want to rein it in, and I want to talk about like a lot of young goalkeepers, because a lot of goalkeeper coaches out there try to express to young goalkeepers what they should look at when they're following the flight of the ball. Karen, in your opinion, is there a specific point of the ball that you look at when trying to read that flight, or is it just kind of the nebulous space of the ball?
Mike.
Again, I'm trying here, man. I'm waking up still.
I'm using that
the nebulous space. Yeah, that's exactly what I look for. The nebulous space.
The ball, the football there, mate. The football.
Don't do accents.
Yeah, no, it's not a singular point, I don't think. Obviously, like the balls just look so different these days as well. So, they always put some kind of weird design on it. So there's a different kind of spin, or, it's nothing. You just go and get the round thing that's coming towards you. You know what I mean?
Catch the big dot.
It's
The nebulous.
I wish I had like
No. But
a
the
more
thing is,
succinct answer for you.
but the thing is, I think this is really constructive here too, because again, a lot of people try to make too much out of something, and they try to read too much into something, and like Saskia was saying, it's like you're overanalyzing it, like in regard to like, well, at what point in the rise do you want to make contact with the ball and stuff like that, and you're like, all right, this poor kid, it's going to leave the session just thinking it was a math equation. Like this is not not going to work out for them.
I think at the end of the day, like football, like especially goalkeeping, it's geometry, isn't it? It's just angles. So you think, you're working with a spherical object. If you want to get something to move a different direction, like Sasha said, it's physics, it's geometry. So you just want to try and get as much surface area behind the ball as possible. And if you want it to go far away, you need to have a non-moving object hit a moving object.
And make it
ideally,
as simple as possible.
Ideally in the middle of the ball. So
Yeah.
it's I feel like a lot of people are really trying to like reinvent the wheel, but it's literally just taking things that work, things that, from different sports or different variations of the game, and then seeing what situations it fits in and seeing if it works or if it doesn't. And I think that's pretty fun about what's happening in goalkeeping at the minute. Taking a lot of things from, you've got Peter Schmeichel that adopted handball and implemented it into his game. And then you've got the futsal movement. You've got ice hockey, like those different types of movements that are starting to evolve as the game's evolving.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And, actually it was funny. I was bringing this up yesterday in regards to a goalkeeper coach. Actually, it was Omar. I'm just going to put him on blast on the show. It was Omar. And he was discussing basketball and Steph Curry's positioning in a triple threat, and how he's getting lined up was very similar to how a goalkeeper in his movement or her movement has to get into a position and a starting good set position before the shot is hit in order to be able to react to any sort of direction. Something we haven't talked about yet in regards to reading the flight of the ball is obstructed view, which is something at your level, and Saskia's level, that is more commonplace than actually being able to see the ball. So how do you handle that in regards to losing sight of the ball as the ball is hit? Because then it's going through 17,000 people before it finally gets to you. So how do you adjust to that?
Again, I think the fundamental principles still apply, in terms of like getting set early, being balanced, and then being patient. So, obviously if you can get an idea of where the ball is, as it's about to leave one's foot. But yeah, you're right. It could take a deflection. You might not see it, you know, so these are the types of things that we practice, like unsighted. You know, we practice with, you know, if working with lads, like usually their back lift is pretty short, you know, so it'll be a quick release. And just like, yeah, I mean, there's things that I'm sure Sasha and I did when we were younger, like where we just have people run around in front of us or have like objects kind of in the way that would change the trajectory of the ball. So for me, again, it was just kind of a reliance on your instincts that you have to trust. But essentially that principle of being balanced and being patient.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that is really the thing, is the patience thing. Because if you lose the ball, like, and you jump too early, well, now you're really stuck in a bad situation. As we start wrapping up right here, you two, does anybody here have some advice for some good sessions or activities that, you know, newer goalkeeper coaches can do with their younger goalkeepers to work on this type of situation? Karen, you want to put your coaching hat on?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find it first, but I think a lot of it is gonna be making sure that the situations that you are trying to train are game specific situations. You know, like there's so many times like in the past where, you know, you see there's just cones everywhere and it looks like you're at an airport, you know, and there's just a plane coming into land and you're like, what are you doing? Like, how is this relevant? You know, like you need to make sure that it's relevant to a situation or a circumstance that they're probably going to come across. And don't get me wrong, there's place and time for, you know, the fitness aspects and things like that. But you know, you need to understand that the more exposure that these kids get to game realistic situations is what's going to probably benefit them the most. So I think it was just like really breaking down the fundamentals, you know, so whether it be start position, you know, if you're starting in the center of the goal as a goalkeeper, and even just a simple service from a cutback position or a slightly wider position, maybe around 12 yards out towards the corner of the 18 or something like that, just vary the flight of the ball, you know, whether it's more flat, whether it's higher, understanding what things feel like. So if you're coming up straight underneath the ball, or if you're going back too soon, or if you're coming too forward, and then just working on like the basic fundamentals. So again, we're talking about being balanced, having the correct starting position. So if you're 3/4 of the way open, you can move forward, backwards, laterally, what have you, and understanding what good feels like, and kind of just start there.
Yeah. Saskia, anything you want to add on?
I said, yeah.
Yep. It's like, we just figured out goalkeeping, guys. We did it. We did it. We did it.
I totally agree. Try to make it as game-like. You know, obviously there's a time and place for building. Get your footwork in. You know, obviously we've gone over the importance of that, but it's repetition and game-like. I mean, you want to build your players up to, if you're doing crosses, they're not just like plucking the same ball out of the air, boom, 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 like start developing that into that there is pressure. There are kids running around in front of them, but like with a purpose, you know, and game like, you know, put them under that pressure, because no two saves are going to be the same. Decisions, you know, you have to see it to I just keep going back to the same thing, to balance and footwork and understand, and having it become second nature.
Yeah. I think it's important to make sure that people understand that, you know, it's not prescribed, you know, so a lofted ball could be from a deflection that you need to go and, you know, clear lines, you know, you need to go and come over a few people because like it's just come off a defender's foot and it's just like hanging in the air, you know, and that's about judging, being patient, letting it kind of come down to a point where you can actually reach it at its highest point, you know. So yeah, I like, there are times and places for like really breaking down specific skills and things like that, but overall at the end of the day, I think as a coach you have to be really certain on what the outcome is that you want to achieve.
Yeah, you know, and we're going to wrap up right here, guys, because I know, Saskia, you've obviously got that meeting, and Karen has a life that she needs to live.
Thanks.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like.
What
I
do
didn't
you
mean it
have
like
to
that.
do? No, just kidding.
No, but I want to say, you know, one of the things that I really, and I appreciate, you know, shout out to the FA, you know, in regards to, you know, a lot of the connections that they've been making for the show and everything like that. But, you know, Tim and Mark and Terry and everybody at the FA, they've really been doing a great job of creating these thinking goalkeepers by, you know, it's really about like problem solving and teaching the autonomy in these goalkeepers. Like you were saying, Karen, in the past, you know, people telling you what to do as opposed to allowing you to figure it out, because in the game you're going to have to figure it out, and there's not going to be a right or wrong answer. There's just going to be a decision that you have to live with, and you have to make the best decision based on what's going on in the game. Karen, before we go, first off, you know, I appreciate the fact that, you know, I know you were crazy because you were like, so sorry for ghosting you. I've just been a little busy. I'm like, yeah, I think that's okay, Dick. Don't worry about that. I think you got a lot going on, you know, figuring out when you guys were going to start training and on all that sort of stuff. But I appreciate you taking the time. If any, you know, if anybody out there wants to reach out to you, where's the best social media for people to connect with you?
I think Instagram's probably my favorite, to be honest. So it's at KL Bardsley, Instagram, and same on Twitter. But I don't really check Twitter that much. I just kind of post stuff and leave it in the ether.
See, and you were giving me crap about not checking my Twitter.
Well, now you're on Twitter, Saskia. I tagged you on the Karen post.
I just haven't paid attention to it. I didn't even have the app pulled down on my phone. I knew I had it. I just didn't use it.
Hopefully there'll be a few things that start to change along the way. I'm working with a new agent, so it's getting his contact details and things like that. So that should be easier going forward, and hopefully a website in the near future. So,
That's it.
Yeah, I know. I have to evolve.
Big time.
And remember, guys, you can reach out to Saskia Weber at Saskia_Weber on both Instagram and Twitter. Contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. Shout out to all the people who recommended that we needed to have Karen on the show. I was already on top of that, but she had ghosted me, so I needed to follow up on that. No, totally kidding on that. Totally kidding on that one right there.
It's all right. Rib away. It's fine. Let's do it.
At Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Honestly, Karen, this has been absolutely, I mean, such a delight. You know, I mean, best of luck with everything that's going on, you know, over there. I'm glad you guys are getting back at it, you know, at the training, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, we're really looking forward, and like, you know, there's got to be more like cross intercontinental competition, man. Like we need to get teams like Man City over here more often, you know, so
I know. Yeah. It's hopefully in the pipeline, those things will start happening, obviously with that preseason tournament, but with the state of everything at the moment, you can see why that would probably be on hold. But it's great to see things happening though, like particularly Saskia with the Angel City shirt you've got on there. You know, I'm so excited to finally see something happen again in LA, and obviously with, you know, the backing that it has, and I'm just hoping that, you know, we get it right this time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of it. I think it's a great time. So
yeah. Definitely. Well, the advent of, you know, the World Cup and everything as well, you've got plenty of time to prepare with, you know, the infrastructure anyway. So
just Saskia's going to be on those sidelines that first day, just making sure that those goalkeepers just keep the ball out of the net.
I am not. I'm going to be in the owner's box with a cocktail. I am going to be on the sideline. No, just kidding.
Are you guys going to have a big enough? Are you
not going to micromanage anything?
Are you guys going to have a big enough owner's box for all of you guys?
It's a good question.
It's like a party for all of you.
Oh yeah, it's like we can't bring anybody.
All right, guys.
But it was brilliant. So thank you so much for having me, guys. It was really lovely speaking to you both.
For sure. That's all the time on Inside the 18, guys, and we are out.